Alright, so I've seen a lot of videos discussing how to find your main in various video games. Notably in League of Legends, Super Smash Bros., Valorant, Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, etc. And they're all fantastic videos for that purpose. But I've one huge key problem with almost all of them out there. Every video I've come across focuses a lot on the details of the characters in one specific game, designing the video in such a way to teach you who you should main in that game, and not teaching you any skills or tactics to figure out your main outside of that game. Nothing to generalize your experiences to. It reminds me a lot of that phrase, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. If you teach a man to fish, you feed him for the rest of his life. Well, the purpose of this video isn't just to give you a fish, it's to teach you how to fish. Today, I'm going to go over a 5-step system I developed to teach you how to find your main in every single class or character-based video game out there. So, full disclosure, I have not played every class or character-based video game out there. Obviously, it would be impossible for me to play every video game of that style. I have played quite a lot, though, and in particular, I play 3 most often. Each are of completely different genres and styles. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Team Fortress 2, and Enter the Gungeon. Therefore, most of the personal examples I'm using are going to be of these 3 games. But the system I'm going to be discussing applies to all of them and loads more. Every game where you pick a specific character or a specific class that has notably different mechanics from all the other classes is a game where you can implement this strategy in, even some tabletop RPGs. I've used this strategy to help me pick a class for multiple characters when doing D&D. It's up to you how you apply what I talk about today. So, with that in mind, let's get into it and start with step 1. Play. Just play the game. First step is always just playing the game without worrying about getting good or finding your main or anything like that. And I know the whole purpose of this system is to try and find out your main, but don't think about this during step 1. The purpose of this step is just to play around with the game engine, understand the overall mechanics, and just get a feel for the game as a whole. If the game has a tutorial, that's perfect for this, but I'd also advise, if at all possible, diving into an hour or 2 of non-tutorial gameplay. Sometimes there's a pretty significant difference between tutorial and the actual game. Now, I will admit this step is the only optional step on this list because you don't actually have to play the game to get that level of understanding. I personally think there's no better way to get that information than by actually playing the game, but if you're confident enough that you understand the gameplay mechanics and the feel of the game without actually playing it, maybe because you've played other similar games or something along those lines, then feel free to skip to step 2. Just be cautious of doing that, as there can be huge changes and huge differences between similar games. At one point in my life, I thought Overwatch was similar enough to TF2 and I could just jump into step 2 based on my experiences with TF2 and find my main quicker for Overwatch, but yeah, that didn't work out for me. They were significantly different, too much so, and I just felt discouraged by how little I knew about the central game because I didn't take the time to play ahead of time and actually figure out the differences between TF2 and Overwatch. I thought those experiences were generalized, and they didn't. So I took a step back, actually learned the game first, and then went on with the rest of the process. Now, once you've played the game a little bit, or at least have developed an understanding of general mechanics through another method, the next step is to look inward, not at the video game, and find out just what you want from this game. Don't start thinking of it within the context of characters just yet, but figure out what playstyle you enjoy most in other similar games and what you intend to get out of the game. Are you the kind of person to play the game patiently, manipulating things to lead to a big, satisfying victory? Or are you the kind of person to run headfirst into things and feel powerful as you take on the world? Are you the kind of person who treats everything like a puzzle to be solved, or the kind of person who just wants to smile and do funny things in every game you play? These are the things you've got to figure out, and maybe you already know them. If so, that's great! Feel free to move on to step 3. But it is imperative that you know what you want to do and what you intend to get out of the game before picking out who you're going to be playing as. This can be developed both from your own experience with other games, as well as thinking back to what you enjoyed most during that first step of just playing around with the game's engine. Additionally, it's okay if this changes from time to time, or from game to game. People change, and their interests do too, so don't worry about trying to figure out a desire that will last you forever. And if your interests are different with different games, that's perfectly okay. I know I personally enjoy a more run headfirst into danger approach with Super Smash Bros., and a more be strategic and manipulative approach with Enter the Gungeon. I also want to have a more casual and fun takeaway with Gungeon, while I want a far more competitive takeaway from Smash. It's okay to have these differences, and it's important to just focus on what you want and like, right then and there when you're picking a main for this specific game. One little side note here though, earlier I made a specific point to say not to think of this in regard to characters yet, and I wanted to explain why. Thinking about the playstyles of the various characters before thinking of what you want sets you up to be biased and change your influences. When I first got into Smash Bros, I was a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda, and I wanted more than anything to main one of the Zelda characters, and as a result, I subconsciously told myself that I wanted to be more tactical, use projectiles, and basically manipulated myself into thinking I would be a good young Link main, simply because I liked young Link as a character. And that was not true about me at all. I hated that playstyle in Smash. I was too impatient and impulsive for it to actually work with me. But I kept with it, because yes, I get to main my favorite character! Maybe it will work out that your playstyle will be in line with whatever character most appeals to you visually, or what you consider your favorite character, but please, please do everything in your power to stop that from biasing your decisions. Pick a main based on what you actually want, not on what is the coolest thing out there. And it might work out for you, maybe not. I guarantee you will learn to love whatever character you wind up maining. Step 3, depending on how you like to spend your free time, can either be the most fun or the most boring part of this all. Research. You know the general aspects of the game and you know what you want from it, but now it's time to combine them and figure out a few possibilities of who you could main. This is where those videos I was referring to at the very beginning of this video comes in handy, as they break down each character and playstyle and how much they match. This is why I think steps 1 and 2 are essential, because many of those videos start off with the expectation that you know what playstyle you want ahead of time, when your desired playstyle can differ greatly from game to game. Keep in mind that while those videos are useful, they are not the only research you can and potentially need to do. This may be enough for games like Enter the Gungeon, where the roster, or at least the initial roster, is rather small, but in games like Smash Bros. Ultimate, there are enormous amounts of characters. And in TF2, while there's only 9 characters, there's loads of sub-categories, sub-weapons, and sub-playstyles for each character, meaning those videos can only give a bit of general advice for your playstyle, limiting the roster down a bit, but not fully settling you down on 1 or 2 specific characters. In these cases, you've got to turn elsewhere. Let's say the TF2 video advised that you look closely at Pyro and Heavy, because they are both fit for rather similar playstyles, and they don't require much aim, and more strategy of your character placement and tracking your opponent, as opposed to skill in regard to aiming. No, that's not me dissing Pyros and Heavies. I am a Pyro and Heavy main. I'm terrible at aiming, I promise. But if that's the case, watch videos of high skill players playing each of these classes. See what they do and try to imagine yourself doing it. If you put yourself in those shoes, which seems more fun? Which seems more like something you could actually personally do. If every option seems really fun and like something that you could legitimately accomplish, great! Time to move on to step 4. If only a handful of options or even just a single option sounds right, cool beats! However, if none of the options that you start to research looks like they'll feel right for you, then there are 2 things you could do. You can either push forward into step 4 and try to force one of them to be your main, or you can go back to one of the first 2 steps, reevaluate your interests, and see if another playstyle would be more interesting to you. I personally had to do this when picking my main for TF2, in all honesty. I thought I was going to be all about a super strategic playstyle, which led me to Spy, Sniper, and a traditional Engineer. These characters initially looked super cool to me, but the more I researched them, the more I realized that those playstyles just aren't for me. I still play Engineer, but in particular I go for a more aggressive mini-sentry battle Engie, in addition to other more aggressive classes such as Heavy, Pyro, and Medic. And yes, I consider a Medic to be a more aggressive class because, let's be honest, you have to be in the heat of battle to heal people more effectively. Trust me, the contracts consider me an expert Medic. I know what I'm talking. I can't take that seriously, I'm sorry. Step 4 is all about experimentation. Hopefully at this point you know enough about the game, you know what you want in the game, you've done research on what people say you should play, now it's time to actually get into the game and play around with them. This is really only super important if you cave into things with multiple options, but it could still be useful if you've already settled down on a single character slash playstyle. Overall, this is the part where you take all that theory from step 3 of would I enjoy this character, and actually try playing these characters to determine who you enjoy. Maybe you don't actually enjoy playing one of the characters you thought you would, or maybe you don't enjoy any of them. I got to this point with Enter the Gungeon because I originally thought the Marine would be best for me, and then I tried over and over and over again, and I realized, dang, I really don't like this. Thankfully, I was playing co-op with my friend Omabase at the time, who encouraged me not just to rage quit and stop playing, but rather to go back and redetermine my desires, eventually leading me to start using the Hunter instead. That said, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully this phase of experimentation lets you see that at least one or a few of the options you were originally interested in are legitimately fun and have accomplishable goals for you. Maybe you're not able to do all the high-tech stuff yet. Lord knows I'm still not able to win tournaments like Meister, or really do any of the things that he does. Honestly, the highest skill thing I could do is Game & Watch's down smash at ledge. But, still, if the high-tech stuff that your character's mains do feels accomplishable, that's a very, very good sign that this is a legitimate main that you could continue with. So, to recap, step 1, you've just got to play around with the game without much of a care. Step 2, you got to figure out what playstyle you desire the most. Step 3, you've got to do some research to figure out what characters fit your desired playstyle. Step 4, you gotta experiment and figure out if all that theorizing of your interest in steps 2 and 3 still apply to the game. So now for step 5, you've actually gotta practice. You know your main now, congratulations. Now, what can you do to actually make those characters truly set apart from others? Put into practice to learn what you can and prove why those characters are your mains. Whether it's just one character or a small handful, you've picked them apart from the rest of the roster, and now it's your time to actually get good at them. How you do that is entirely dependent on you, what game it is, what characters you picked, and loads of other factors, but the point of a main is to get good, and here's where you do that. Focus on these characters, improve with them, and boom, that is officially your main. You'll notice that you are far better with these characters than anyone else on the roster very quickly. So, that's it.
Congratulations!
You now officially know how to select your main in every character-based game ever. Now, it's time to go out and actually do it. Find your main in Overwatch, CSGO, Rainbow Six, D&D, Rivals of Aether, Mario Kart, wherever you can apply this information. Find your main, train, and dominate. You can do this. If you liked the video, please drop a like or subscribe, and feel free to let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any aspect of this video. You're absolutely welcome to check out some of my other videos. I'll have them linked on screen. I don't usually do this kind of scripted voiceover video, but I might try it again sometime. It was super fun, and while it was certainly more work than my usual gameplay videos, I think it was worth it. Thank you for watching, and have a phenomenal rest of your day.